Hello there everyone, and welcome back to another episode of RealScreenReviews.com. I'm Nick Iacobucci, and joining me today in the eBird seat is returning guest critic Pat Devlin. Pat, thanks so much for being here.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
It's always a pleasure to have him in the eBird seat. And he is back today to review the film The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which opened overseas last February, February 09. It opened USA stateside on March 10th, 2010. And it has recently come to video in June of 2010, but Pat and I traveled to Chautauqua, New York, to an art house theater just the other day that was still showing it, and we were intrigued and entertained by The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah.
And at this point, I will turn it over to my guest critic to tell us just a little bit about the movie.
Well, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo starts off with Michael Blomkvist. Excuse us if we mispronounce any names.
These are some tough names. It's a Swedish film. It's a Swedish film, so...
he starts off at a trial where he's being accused of libel.
Yeah, he's a journalist.
Yeah, he's accused of libel, gets convicted, and they find out like 6 months from then
he has to serve his sentence.
Serve a prison term. So he leaves his job, disgraced, and then gets hired by this rich guy who wants him to find out what happened to his niece years ago, because he thinks she was murdered by a family member.
Now, there's also another character. This is obviously the girl with the dragon tattoo, and her name is Lisbeth. And she's been doing some independent research. She's a researcher, a research assistant on computers. Very, very talented, very, very knowledgeable character. And she believes this man, Mikhail Blomkvist, to be innocent, that he was the one that was actually set up. Their lives interturn because he's hired by this family, as Pat said, that to investigate this murder, and she ends up finding out some information with that case, and their lives start to intertwine, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, the family hired her to check up on him.
Yes.
To make sure he didn't have any...
Yes.
He was a very trustworthy guy. They had her check on his past.
It's a very complex story, but it's also a very, very fascinating tale. I thought it was very, very well done. I want to compare it to Inception because I think it's one of the better live-action films that I've seen this year. But unlike Inception, this movie had a very, very tight story, but yet it was easy to follow. I didn't think it was overly complex. I didn't think it needed to be overly complex. Pat?
Yeah, I agree totally. I mean, it was 2.5 hours, and the time just went by so quick.
Absolutely. I don't think I looked at my watch one time.
No.
I'll tell you what. It's a whodunit, and it's a whodunit. It's a wonderful, gripping, interesting thriller. But the one problem that I have with American versions of thrillers is there's always a scene in the movie where they go out of their way to show you that this 5 minutes it could be this person. Then later on in the story, they say, well, it could be this person over here. Well, but in this film that we watched, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, it never does that. It just tells and unravels the story little by little, and it never ever points the finger. It really could be anybody throughout the whole story.
Yeah, the uncle even tells him right at the beginning he suspects every family member, man, woman, doesn't matter.
Yes, and at times I think it could be that gentleman as well. You know, I mean,
Right.
it leaves nobody out of this. There is a very known and graphic rape scene that is in the film. And I guess that is loyal to the book. I'm not sure. I never read the book, but I actually think that this movie would have worked well on its own without that being in the story or in the film to begin with. I thought this was just a great telling. So what did you think? Did you think that needed to be in there?
I think it needed to be known what she was going through with the system that Sweden does with their people with mental illness.
Yes.
But it was a very brutal scene. You have to have a strong stomach.
Very strong stomach.
Put up with, or to tolerate what happens in the scene.
But why I think this movie is so great is because you have a central character, this character of Lisbeth. I think she is just as interesting and as fascinating as the story itself. And as the movie plays out, you learn answers to the story, but you don't learn answers to this character, Lisbeth. We were actually commenting on how when the movie ends, you're still almost none the wiser of what happened to her when she was younger, where her education came from, where her motivations came from. And now, correct me, this is a trilogy, is this not? Or?
Yes, the sequels have already been shot. One is getting released the next one's getting released on DVD, I believe, next month. The Girl Who Played with Fire.
And I'm very interested in seeing that now.
And then the third in the trilogy, it's called the Millennium Trilogy, is called The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. And they're all based on the book series that are called the Millennium Trilogy.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I can't wait to see this because, like I said, Mikhail Blomkvist, the main character, even says in the movie when they're interacting, he says to her, he says, you know everything about me, but I don't know anything about you. And he's speaking for the entire audience. Like, we don't know anything about her, and she is such a fascinating character. Now, we've also, I think, did we mention that this is going to be remade? As an American film? Okay. It's going to be directed by David Fincher, okay, who directed Seven and Fight Club and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. He's a perfect choice to helm this film. But my reservations right off the bat are, this is a great film on its own, and I don't know how Hollywood is going to take this material and take it to the next level. I don't want to say they're going to be wasting their time, but it's going to be extremely difficult to top this movie, I think.
Yeah, very rarely have I seen foreign films get remade into American films that are just as good. There was this one movie called Funny Games. I can't remember what country it was from, but it was a great film, and it was remade in American with the same director, and he did it shot for shot. And the only difference was it was spoken American without the sub. You know, you didn't have to use a subtitle.
And I don't think we're not obviously going to get that treatment with this film. And I just think that it might lose something. I think that American audiences are not going to deal with this rape scene as well. Like, I could be wrong. You know, I could be very wrong. Maybe David Fincher's going to be loyal to the source material. I don't know. But well, I think that we both are giving this a favorable review.
Very.
We'll go to the stars. How many stars are you going to give this film, Pat?
I would give it 4 out of 4.
You know what? I was teetering between 3.5 stars and 4 stars, but we saw it a couple days ago, and I think after letting it sink in for a couple days, this movie is almost perfect. I mean, it is 4 stars. I mean, I could minorly pick out things here and there, but this is 4 stars out of 4 stars. I think this is every bit as good as Inception. I think it's every bit as good as any Hollywood film that's out there.
Yeah.
And it is on DVD. It is available on DVD as this recording is being made. So I strenuously, wish everybody to go out there. But I do want you to remember that it is graphic in spots. Oh, and there is one sadistic villain. I would think was going to be remembered. He'll be remembered right there with like Hannibal Lecter if it's done right. But it was very, very graphic. Please be forewarned. But a great story nonetheless. A great mystery. A great whodunit. I think this movie's awesome.
And as I said on the last review I did with you, don't bring the kids.
Yes, this is definitely not one for the kids. And I don't know if you could have ever deduced that unless he just told you not to bring the kids. But okay, I guess we're going to say nothing but favorable reviews from both my guest critic, Pat. Pat, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was great.
And we can't wait to have him back. And do you want to end this for us?
Well, yes. And remember, people, we're not always right, only when it comes to the movies.
And thank you for your attention.